Welcome back, folks, to the Print Files at PacPrint, streaming live from the PacPrint exhibition floor. Our first interview for today, the final day, Friday, day 4 of the show. So I'm joined by Peter Wagner, Managing Director of Europols. Peter, how are you doing?
Great, thank you, Grant.
That's great. Good to have you on the show, mate. Now, Europols, can you give us a quick overview of what Europols does?
Europols is pretty simple. It is a manufacturer supplier of exhibition and display equipment, print, and outdoor and indoor hardware and complete turnkey solutions.
Okay, so everything from like the outdoor display through to a trade show display like this?
Absolutely, everything from umbrellas, gazebos, and beach chairs and so on, all branded, of course.
Yep.
Right the way through to your expo stands and general banners and stuff you see around the expo.
Okay.
Surprising walking around PacPrint how many structures and so on are here that we've produced over the years. It's it's heaps of them.
And good to see they're still in use.
It is. It's a bit of a shame they haven't updated some of their fabric skins, I might add. But, we need that at the moment. It's been pretty lean the last couple of years.
Yeah. So doing a lot of displays, but there's been no events for a couple of years. How'd you get through COVID?
We're fortunate that Europols is associated with another entity. We went from doing really well in February, March 2020 to April through to 2020 through April 21. Our total sales was sub $100,000 for the year, which was just diabolical for not even a tenth of what we were doing previously. And so we were able to subsidize it and keep it afloat for other entities. I guess we've relaunched Europols at this show because there wasn't much happening up until sort of February of this year when government started to allow exhibitions back and events back into our society.
Yep.
And it's encouraging. I mean, this show has been fantastic. It's great. Number of people coming through the door has been huge.
Yep.
And everyone that's been here is engaged and really wanted to be here.
Yeah.
I would have to say out of all the shows I've done as an exhibitor, this is the best one we've actually ever had.
Wow.
It's been outstanding. And most other exhibitors I've spoken to are exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's been amazing.
I'm getting that trend and theme from everyone I've interviewed.
Yeah.
And they're all saying that they're getting a lot of visitors who are engaged. They're not just tire kickers. They're
100%.
Really,
And it's just, I think we've realized the value of that face-to-face contact and pressing the flesh, shaking hands, talking to people. A lot of our product that we do, it's, until you can see it, you can touch it, feel it. It's really hard to understand what it is.
Yep.
Three-dimensional textile displays, really hard to illustrate on the web. In fact, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
You don't get a feel for how big these things are, until you're standing next to it, and then you realize, this is big.
Yeah.
One of our, I suppose, most notable products that we've sold, well over 100 of them so far in Australia in the last about 4 years, is a product called the Gate. And it's a 6.5 meter wide, 3.3 meter high archway. Wow. That if you'd watch the FFA Cup final with the A-League, the netball grand final, which was played on Sunday in Perth, and there's rugby league teams have got it, the Sydney Swans and so on, they've got them. A lot of the A-League teams have got them. They use them as backdrops. So at the netball grand final, it'll have this big archway that their hero shot when they're doing their whole thing, fire off the cannons with the confetti and so on. Behind them is this archway that'll have on it the 2023 what do they call it, Suncorp Netball League Championship winners.
Wow.
And it's those sort of things that just makes a big statement.
Yeah.
And they're really simple to put up. Within 10 minutes you've got this massive structure and they can use indoors, outdoors, and it's there.
Yeah.
The people love it. But
fantastic.
Until you've seen it in real life, you don't understand how big this thing is.
Yeah. I'm trying to visualize 6 by 3.3, and it's like, but
it's exactly. Big. When you can fit a whole AFL team in front of it, and there's still space. It is a big structure, and it's we've got it engineered so you can use it indoors or outdoors. Outdoors, 80 kilometre-hour winds. We've had it in 100 kilometre-hour winds. It doesn't really like it. Had a couple of twisted poles out of it, but it shows it's a very solid structure.
Yeah.
Quite robust. And yet it's only 15 kilos.
That's amazing.
It is. It's
Strength
well engineered
and light.
product.
Okay.
Yeah.
What may I ask? What materials it's made of?
It's an aluminium tubular structure.
Okay.
Coated, or we cover it with a mechanical stretch dye printed polyester.
Right.
It's a bit of skill in actually getting it to fit and sit right, and it took us a few months to actually perfect that.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they're down pat,
Yep.
and people walk in. It's, I suppose, the hero shot when you walk in the door to the show. Look to your right, and there's one of those gate structures, and
Yeah.
everyone goes, "Oh wow!"
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I didn't know this was possible.
That's
So
great.
it's just one of those things that, you know, we do it. I guess we probably aren't the world's greatest at promoting ourselves and putting ourselves everywhere, but we do what we do, and the customers love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully this will help get awareness of people, you know, your company to the
Oh,
market.
everything helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Word of mouth's fantastic.
Excellent. So before we started rolling the live stream, we discussed briefly the very topical subject, which is sustainability.
Yes.
And you wanted to have a couple of words on that.
Look, it's one of those things. I've just been in FESPA,
Mhm.
4 weeks ago now.
Yep.
And it was amazing to see the shift in the last 2 years. I was there in 2019. Obviously, the 2020 FESPA didn't happen, and we couldn't get there in 21 because of our border situation.
Yep.
It was just too hard to get back into the country. Especially coming from Western Australia, it was impossible. So that was a really lean period of time. But what we've seen, having seen what's happened in Europe, it was amazing. There was very, very little. In fact, you really had to look to try and find a PVC-based product on a stand at FESPA this year.
Yep.
Everyone has gone non-PVC.
Yep.
And, you know, in the last 3 months, I've been asked by some significant businesses in Australia, we want non-PVC product. We don't want PVC.
Yep.
And, you know, that's been driven from headquarters of major international corporations.
Yep.
Some are headquartered in the US, some are headquartered in Europe. But people are aware that PVC is really bad for our environment. It's a shocking product.
Yeah.
And so they're all moving away from it. And we've been a bit of a sleepy little country down here and haven't really done anything about moving away from it. And so obviously my time in Europe, I spent talking to a few people, and within 12 months, we will not have a PVC product on our floor.
That's great.
We've teed up with some textile mills to bring in our own fabrics that are all made from PET yarn, which is recycled bottles. And it's all fully recycled and recyclable product. The dyes and so on we're using now are all water-based. There's no oil-based dyes in the system anymore. We use a steaming process for the color fixation. Uses less electricity, less heat, and gives a better UV stability to the product. And, you know, we're at a point now where we can say to people, look, you know, we'll be using a recycled product. We are using some recycled product already, but we'll be able to do a complete closed loop. You use the product, you bring it back to us, we'll send it back to the mill, and they'll recycle it again. So we've got that complete closed loop. Which I don't know. There was one other company I've heard of that is looking at doing that in Australia at the moment. But it's something that we really need to be conscious of. As a company, one of the bigger textile manufacturers in Australia, we need to make sure that, you know, we're doing the right thing and being a leader and being responsible about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hearing a lot from some of the interviews I've been doing where they're talking about phasing out PVC, but you're doing the whole hog and going the full recyclable, bring it back. We'll run it to the, as you said, run it to the mill and have it recycled and put it into another product.
Yes.
Which is great.
Or even the boards that we're using, we're going down the same pathway. So, you know, we're going away from things like ACM. And, you know, we're using solid aluminium sheet because aluminium sheet is 100% recyclable. You know, sure, it means we've got to look at how we're going to be able to print direct aluminium. We've done some testing on that. We've come up with some sort of result. We're improving that all the time. But we've got to get away from product that's not sustainably, not sustainable and is not recyclable. Just in our factory alone, we throw out almost 6 cubic meters of rubbish every day that is offcuts and just byproduct from our manufacturing processes. Now, we're only one of hundreds and hundreds of print houses around Australia. And if we're putting out 6 cubic meters of landfill a day, what's our industry actually doing? And it's pretty scary. When you start looking at what those numbers can potentially be, it's frightening.
It is very frightening. It's very frightening. And
we're only a small market. what's the US like? It's
Yeah, and this is why Europe's leading the way with all these changes, because
Yes.
they've looked at it and seen what's happening. So,
Yeah.
well, it's I think also we've got the situation coming up where if you want to work with Europeans, you're going to have all the sustainable, not just stamps, but actual processes and everything going on.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just the Europeans either.
Yeah.
We're finding large corporates from whether they be Europe or North America are all demanding that you've got to be able to provide just your recycle or your sustainability program. And what does it look like? How do you go about doing these processes? Where are you sourcing your materials? How are you recycling? All those sort of things have got to now be documented, and you've got to be able to submit that documentation when you're going for some of these tenders and so on.
Yep.
I saw the first one come through from a council the other day, and I dare say it's heading that way more and more.
Yep, I think that is the sign of the future.
Yep.
Well, mate, it's been great to have you here on the show. Peter, is there anything you'd like to say as the final word before we shut down?
The only thing I'd like to say to the general public and the industry is get out there, support Australian manufacturers.
Yep.
We're supporting 65 families in Australia. We're a relatively small business. But, there's a lot of people, if you're not buying Australian, they can't buy from you.
Yep.
So it's a circle that if we support each other, we can all get through this even better. And we need jobs in Australia and keeping people employed.
Well said, mate. And that, I think, is a great way to end this. Peter Wagner, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Grant. It's great being here.
And folks, you've been listening to another interview from the print files at PacPrint, streaming live from the PacPrint exhibition floor and sponsored by Ball and Doggett. We'll be back soon with another interview, so be sure to monitor this channel for more great content.